Briefly to introduce myself, I'm Katrina Dumitru, and thank you for being here today. I am the founder to leader coach. I work specifically with founders who go through this transition from being the person who builds the company to actually being the leader who takes it into its next stage. And a couple of words about why I do this work and why I think it matters so much. Well, I've spent roughly about 20 years working inside or alongside founder-led companies. My first years were in expert roles, then more in leadership roles. I've also worked as a C-level advisor. More recently, I handled capital raising and business strategy work. And across all the time, what I've seen is one pattern that kept repeating itself more than many others. That was a business that was maybe ready to scale product-wise, demand-wise, and so on. Sometimes it was held back by a founder who wasn't there. And it's not because they weren't capable or they didn't want to, it's because the precise skills and habits and mindset that helped them build a business to that point were not the same ones that were needed to go forward. So I've seen it also myself. I've gone from an expert role to a management role to more of a leadership role. I've also designed leadership processes and went through these transformations with many founders. So I'm not describing this from the outside. And I also know it's not an easy thing to do as a founder. And this is why I do the type of work that I do. I'm definitely here for it. But how does it show up? From what I noticed is two types of situations. They feel very differently from the outside, but from the inside, they have similar patterns. And one such situation is scaling. So when the business is growing, maybe you have some good traction or good signals, you've signed a partnership or you got funding, something like this. Suddenly more complexity comes in, like you need to take care of more stakeholders, you're hiring a bigger team, and so on. Decisions start becoming more and more complex and becoming harder. So this is where you start seeing that, okay, what I've done until now maybe doesn't work that well anymore. And I'm talking like all the time with founders, and some of them say, for example, until now it's been only the founder team or the team we've had from the beginning. Right now we're looking to double our team or triple our team, and I know I cannot lead them the same as I've done until now. So this is one situation with scaling. And the other one, it's actually tough times, like it is right now in many markets. Many companies have a difficult time right now with slower growth or stopped growth, actually, longer sales cycle, and so on. And of course, for them, it's how do you stabilize the revenue and how do you manage the workflow? But from what I noticed, hard times also have this great skill of highlighting all the gaps that until then you've been able to, not look at them because everything went fine. But suddenly, some founders say, right now, because things are that tough, I'm noticing that it's not going well and it hasn't gotten that well, actually. So these are the two types of situations where the founder needs to change something. And what they notice is like more effort doesn't solve it anymore. And what does solve it is a different way of operating and a different way of leading. And that's what today is all about. We are not talking today about growth or about funding. I know this might be on the agenda of many of you, but today is about leadership and about you as a leader. I can see a question here from Catalin. Good. Happy to see you filled in the scorecard. Well, we have begun. We'll get right to it in a minute. So let's see what the agenda for today is. So first of all, I'll walk you through my framework for leadership, the 3 Ps that you've seen when completing the scorecard. Then I will share some of the patterns that I've noticed from the stats that I have from my scorecard and from the conversation I've had with founders. And after that, we'll do an exercise. I'll guide you through a brief reflection so that you are able to leave with one clear leadership priority for the next 90 days, hopefully for yourself. So that being said, thanks again for being here. Please, let's make the most of it. Make sure you get as much value as you can from it. Ask questions live. You can raise your hand or put a question in the chat, and do it anytime you feel like it. I will answer everything that is being asked, and also we'll have a Q&A session by the end of this. Good. Any questions or ideas until now? Not yet. All right. It's still early. Good. So let's get to the 3 Ps, to the framework that I mentioned. So the 3 Ps that you also saw in my scorecard, it's people, processes, and leadership presence. And I work with these 3 because in my experience, they make or break a leader. So they consistently determine whether a founder makes this leadership transition successfully or he may become a bottleneck to the business and a ceiling to growth. And I'll talk about each of them. Like first is people. It's about obviously how you work with your team. It's about expectations. It's about how you delegate, how you give feedback, about the tough conversation that you might be avoiding with your team. So this is the first pillar. The second is processes, and it has 2 sides. One is the processes that you build for your team so that they can operate on a daily basis. It's workflows, it's tools, documentation, the resources that they need. And the second part, it's the processes for you as a leader. How do you make decisions? How you set priorities? What are your routines? And so on. What most founders do is build the processes for their teams, but they don't do the processes for themselves. And we'll talk about this. And last but not least is presence. And I think this can be misunderstood. It's not about how much time you spend in the business, because we are obviously talking about founder-led companies. So you're obviously involved in what happens in the business day by day. But it's about how you show up. Do you show up more as an expert, as a manager, as a leader? Are you focused on strategy, or are you constantly being pulled back into execution? Do you have a clear vision, or is it still blurry in your head? This is what it's all about in the third pillar, the presence. Obviously, these 3 don't exist in isolation. They interact. Weakness in one creates pressure in the others. And we'll see exactly how it happens in the insights that we'll go through. But right now, like, let me share with me, like in the chat, where does the most pressure come up for you right now? Is it people, processes, or presence? Let's write it down and see what happens. Irina saying presence. Horatio as well. All right. Attila, process. Okay. Does somebody bid for people, or I'm curious to see. Somebody else? In my latest webinar, many people said processes and workflows. That was the thing they used to struggle the most. One is saying people. All right. So things are quite split here. It's hard to choose. Okay. I can imagine, yeah, They're strongly correlated. You cannot do one without the other, obviously. It depends on the day. Good one. Love this. Okay, good, good. So things are quite split and also tied together. Right. So I'll go through each of them uh, and notice what were the affirmation that you answered to in the scorecard. What are the insights that I noticed, and maybe some examples or some recommendations from my part. So the first one is the people pillar, and these are the 4 affirmations that you ranked yourself on. First is how clear are the expectations and the roles on your team. Then it's your ability to give feedback. The third one is how independent is your team from you? And the fourth one sums it all up somehow, like how satisfied are you with your team's performance? What I can tell you is that if the fourth one has a high score, like 8 to 10, usually you won't be inclined to solve any of the first 3, simply because it works well. But again, I'm asking you, like, how does it work for you? What do you struggle with the most? Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? Let me know. You can simply write in the chat 1, 2, whatever it is. Okay, it's 1. And the 4 from Horatio. 3. Okay. Again, quite split. A 1 once again. Good. All right. So we've got 2 1s and the rest a bit split. Okay. Good. Now, let's go forward. I'll share what I noticed here. So actually, this pillar is the one that scores the highest from the statistics that I have at my scorecard. People is always the highest. But what I found is there is always at least one area from the 4 that we just looked at that scores pretty low, like a 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. And usually this is in feedback or expectations and roles. This is what happens most often. And what I noticed, and by talking also to some of you, is avoiding friction. Like if you're avoiding feedback or if you're avoiding expectations and role setting, usually you avoid some kind of friction. With feedback, maybe you feel if I give a clear feedback or a negative feedback, let's say, maybe I will generate conflict or maybe I will hurt the person and so on. With expectation and roles, it happens quite the same. If I set clear things for my team, maybe they will push back. Maybe they won't agree and so on. So mostly what I see here is avoidance of friction. But what this creates is actually lots of impact on the team, right? For you, it's mostly frustration because you're not able to give the feedback that you want and things don't happen according to your expectations. So frustrations build up for you. But for the team, maybe the lack of clarity for them, it takes them more time to execute on something simply because they don't know exactly who does what or what is expected of them and so on. So now the question for you would be like, what have you been postponing? What conversation or feedback have you been postponing that you could do right now and would benefit your team? Maybe you take this for afterwards. And a short example, I think you're quite familiar with this. It's Brian Chesky. He's the CEO and one of the founders of Airbnb. He actually told this story that in early years, he was involved in everything. like from relationship to hosts on Airbnb, to design decisions about the platform, to product calls. He was everywhere. And it worked, of course, because it was his vision and his care for quality and so on. But when the company scaled, he actually started to put a brake on operations because everything needed to wait for his approval or his feedback. So he said it wasn't actually that he didn't trust his team. It was that he didn't set the clarity on ownership with them, like who does what, who owns what, so that he trusts them to do those things. So he knew they were able to do them, but he didn't provide the clarity so that they were able to. So what he did, he actually redesigned like who owns what, made it explicit, talked to the team, and this facilitated scaling. So this is just a short example. Okay, now we'll go on to processes. This is the second pillar, and these are the affirmations that you scored yourself on. One is about documenting processes for what you do daily. The second one is maintaining quality and consistency. The third one is about yourself, how you set clear business priorities for yourself. And the fourth is also about yourself, how you make decisions. Right now, what do you struggle the most with? Could you please share? Again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see what happens. 1 and 3, one is saying. Okay. Okay. It's 1 and 3. Okay.
Well, that doesn't mean that we excel at the other three, okay? So
No, of course, but we also need to have priorities. We cannot figure everything at once, you know. When you start noticing gaps in your leadership, the first instinct is start working on everything, and this like puts a lot of pressure on you. And this is why I always try to make you prioritize so that you have something to start with and then get on to the next things. Okay, Horatio, can you see the screen now? Let me know. I hope you do. Okay. All right. Horatio is back. Okay. I hope you can see the screen now, Horatio. Okay. Good. So we have these 4 affirmations. I have to say for this pillar, it's the toughest. So on average, it scores the lowest across all scorecards that have been completed. And the first one, actually having documented processes for core operations, is the lowest scoring statement across the whole scorecard. So I think it's more than 80% of respondents who scored 7 or less out of 10. So it's really where the biggest issue is right now for many of you, probably. Horatio, I think it's what you need to see, actually. So we are here at the processes screen. I think it's right. You're good. This is what you need to see. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yes. So again, what I noticed is this is the lowest scoring pillar, and the lowest item across the scorecard is documented processes. And what I know also from talking to founders is that many times they have built the processes themselves in the beginning when they operated alone or on a small team. And unfortunately, the system stayed in their head, like, you know how things should be done, and you think it might be obvious for everybody, and you treat it as maybe a default. But obviously it isn't. And this is how you can become a bottleneck to your business, to your team, to your operations, especially because people need to get back to you to ask, like, how do I do this? How do I do that? Or you notice things that don't work according to your expectations and you don't know why. It's because things aren't that clear for the other members of the team. And I have also an example here, and this is quite ironic. Maybe you know Notion, many people in tech use it. This is actually a tool that is for knowledge management. And the ironic thing is that the company had their internal operations undocumented for years. They used to operate like this. Although they built this tool for all others. But this became a problem when they scaled very, very fast in 2020 during the pandemics when many tech companies scaled. And then they had actually to stop and to build internally what they've been building for their customers. And there was a cost to this delay. So they had problems with onboarding users, their support team was overwhelmed, and so on. And this is what I think many founders, they push like, I will do this later, I will do this later. And they handle this when things already have a big pressure on them coming from users or customers or clients. But actually, you can start seeing the red flags much earlier. So when you see that delivery is inconsistent, deadlines are being missed, quality isn't quite there, people are losing time by asking questions, where is this, where is that, where do I find this answer, and so on. You can start building what is necessary for these flags that appear throughout time. So I also have a question for you, like, where in your business is there knowledge that should be in a system, in a document, and is still living in someone's head, probably in yours? Maybe you can think about that next. Good. And now we're getting to the final pillar, the third one. I think this is the pillar that mentioned most of you in the beginning, that it's most problematic. So this pillar is about time for reflection, about having a clear vision for the future, about the self-belief that you're the right person to lead the business further on. And then it's about staying focused on leading and staying less in execution. So since lots of you mentioned this pillar, like, what's your biggest struggle here? 1, 2, 3, or 4? And I'll share afterwards also what the stats are saying from my scorecard. Okay, maybe 4, Horacio is saying. Okay. What about the others? Are there too many? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Thank you, Juana, for being so honest. Irina says 2. Attila 4 and 1. Okay. Interesting. So it was maybe harder to pick here from what I'm noticing. Okay. All right. So the stats are saying this. What I noticed is that the self-belief, so this is the third one, scores, I think, is the highest from the entire scorecard on average. So here I saw the highest scores from 8 to 10 usually. Also, 2 is usually high. Also, an 8 may be on average. What many of you are struggling with is 1 and 4, and especially 4. And I think this is kind of a mismatch. So, like, you have the confidence, but you keep slipping back into execution. And this can be a reality. Like, if you're in an early stage of the business, it might be normal. Maybe you're juggling execution with coordination, with vision, and everything at once because you're filling in for many, many roles on your team. But this might be also holding you back from actually building the next phase. If you stay day by day in what is happening today in the operation, fixing and firefighting and so on, it might be hard to actually build the future. So what I usually do with the founders I work with, we set up a leadership operating system. This is how I call it. Obviously, many people and many founders have an operating system for their team, how we work together, who does what, and so on, but they rarely have an operating system for themselves. And what I know is that you need to have 2 types of time and to split intentionally between the 2 of them. One is operational time, and this is obvious, like you need to deliver, to talk to users or customers, to talk to your team, coordinate, and so on. The other one is founder time. It's the things that we're talking about here right now, like vision, strategy, what's your leadership priorities, how do you develop as a leader, and so on. And so what usually happens is that the operational time comes at you, right? It's the team that requests things, the users or the clients that demand things of you. So you get pulled into operations all the time. Founder time is not a given and nobody asks you to do it. So this is a time that you actually need to protect for yourself to be able to have this and to develop these things that are quite crucial for the next phase that you want for your business. So what I think is important is that you decide what's a good split for you at this stage. Maybe 50-50 is totally unrealistic right now, and that's okay. If you say it's 90-10, like 90% of my time I'm in operations and 10% of my time I'm in founder mode. All right, what does this happen? What does this mean? So founder time 10%, if you're working, let's say 40 hours per week, but well, we know it's more than that usually, but let's say 40 hours per week. This means 4 hours per week you should be in founder time. Do you have this in your calendar? Do you protect this time? How do you do it? If 10% sounds little, start with 10% and implement it. 4 hours per week, then set up 4 hours per week as your founder time. And actually, this is what you're doing right now. So I want to congratulate you on this and actually encourage you to do more of this. You're right now watching your own development as a leader, and this is great. If you need a process in place for this, this is what I work with my clients on. If you're looking in your calendar right now and you don't see this protected founder time, that could be your signal. You can book a call with me one-to-one and go through this leadership operating system and see how this could work for you. I'll put this link in the chat if you want to book the one-to-one call with me and maybe talk about this, about your operating system. I can really help with this. I have a framework and we can work on this together. I can read what Horatius wrote here. Sometimes slip back into operational if it's customer facing, trying to offer the best experience I can. This is what Horatio said. Yes, I think it's totally normal if you're involved in customer experience and in operations. It's totally normal. Again, it's making this intentional. And without protecting your founder time, this cannot be intentional, unfortunately, because again, operations are calling all the time, but founder time isn't. So this is what I'd suggest. Good. Now, we've gone through all this, all the 3 pillars and what has come up for each of you on them. What I see as a general pattern, most of the time, I see that many founders are pretty good with people and they're trying to be the best they can in this area. They tend to neglect processes, and with their presence, they are overloaded as founders and very rarely have actually the time and the energy to show up as a founder and as a leader. Now, how does this come up and how does this feel in the business and day by day? Like one thing is working harder. Maybe you've tried this to compensate to work harder, but the leverage is not that high anymore. Because in the beginning, when you're operating as an expert, of course, working harder has a big ROI, right? Because you're delivering more. But when your job isn't only to deliver, working harder doesn't work. It's not enough. And this might be a process problem. Maybe you haven't got the processes in place through which you can delegate or you can automate things, or you don't have the workflows on the team to make work more efficient. Then you might be going back and forth between control and overwhelm. I see many founders who want to make sure that everything is going well, that they control everything, that they oversee everything, but then they are overwhelmed because they've got so much on their plate and they become frustrated and they tend to feel alone in the business. And this might be a presence problem. You might be showing up in the business more as a supervisor, a manager, even a micromanager, but less as a leader. Or you can have a team that cannot operate too much without you. You get called from Slack or WhatsApp and so on all the time. We need your help. How do we do this? How do we do that? And obviously, this is a people problem. It might also be a process problem, but first of all, a people problem. All in all, you might be in a leadership transition, or you might need to be in a leadership transition if you feel this mismatch, like the business is going so fast and I cannot keep up with it. Then you might be in this transition. Good. Now, do you have any questions or ideas until now? Because afterwards we'll go into a short reflection exercise. So let me know if something comes up for you. All right, good. Let's get to the reflection. So, because this is what I do as a coach, I mostly facilitate reflection and I am also a thinking partner for my clients. Let's do a short reflection today. Please take something to write on digitally, on paper, however you want. We'll have only 4 questions today. They are brief. I'll give you the time to go through them and answer them. So you can look at your scorecard results. You can look at your answers in the chat until now, what you noticed. And we'll start from there. Okay, good. Now, let's go to the first question. The first question is, where is the most pressure building up right now? So you can choose between people, processes, or presence, but you've already done that. If you want to be more specific from all the things that we've talked today, from the answers that you gave in the scorecard, If there was one point you could indicate, what would it be? You can answer for yourself, and if you want, of course, you can also share in the chat. I'll give you 1 minute to go through it and think about it. Good. When you're done, give me a thumbs up so I know you're done and we can go forward. All right. I'm seeing many thumbs up. Okay, good. Now, keeping this in mind, let's go forward. And what is one situation that shows this and that comes up again and again in the business? Think of a particular situation, something very specific that is happening because of this. This situation should frustrate you or annoy you, so it should come up with some emotions like this. It should bother you somehow. All right, good. So if you have the problem, then where it's coming up, let's go forward. Like if this stays the same for the next 6 months, what's the cost for the business, for you? What's happening or what doesn't happen? All right. Okay. And we'll get to the last question for today. If there was one thing you could change in the next 90 days to solve this or at least to address this, what would it be? take a moment. This doesn't need to be rushed. You have all the time. You can think about it. Okay, good. So to take this even further, I won't continue the reflection exercise here, but I will leave you with 3 questions. I will send them also by email afterwards, so that if you want, you can actually bring this into reality in the next 90 days. So the first question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to making this happen, this change or this shift? I have to tell you, if the commitment is lower than 7, that means you probably won't do it. Maybe you're not ready, maybe this isn't the most relevant thing for you to do in the next period, and that's totally fine. So if your score is lower than 7, maybe you need to reconsider either the problem, if it's relevant for you now, or the solution, if this is the solution you want to commit, or think about another one. But this is for you to answer. Then the next question is, what do you need to start and what do you need to stop to actually make space to make this happen? And the third question is, what would need to change for you? And I have here two sentences. I am currently a Tada leader. And if I do this shift, I will be a Tada leader. For instance, in the previous webinar, we've had a founder who said, currently, I feel like a stretched leader. I'm stretched between all the roles and the areas in the business. If I make this shift, the one that he wanted to do, I will be a more focused leader. So this is just to give you an example of what this could mean. So if you want to take the time to reflect on this, you can really put this into your calendar, like take 15 or 20 minutes, or we can do the reflection together again in a one-to-one call to make sure that you take this and make it a reality. And you have the Calendly link here in the chat. Horatio says 10 out of 10. Happy to hear that, Horatio. Somebody is very committed. So yeah, this is the type of commitment you need to make a big shift in leadership, if that's what it's about for you. Good. Now, what I noticed being in this reflection exercise with you and you answering all these questions in the chat is that you were able to pinpoint right away what's the biggest problem. Like, this is what's bothering me. And you were also able to think of a solution pretty fast. So what happens is that it's not that you don't know what isn't working or that you don't know what to do. It's really designing how to do it, creating the space for it, making it work. And this is where my work comes in. And this is how we could continue working together. This could be the first step. It's called my audit, Founder to Leader. It's a very short program. It includes 4 sessions, and we go from your leadership scores from the scorecard, and we go on to create actually a roadmap for you for the next 90 days. Like, what would be the priority? How would you integrate it into your routines? How would you make it happen? And of course, if it would make sense for us to continue working together onwards after this. So this could be the next steps, the next step that we could make together. But until then, if you have a bottleneck that you've identified today, or if you have even identified a priority that you would like to work on, the next step for you would be to join me in a call where we could really stress test this, either your bottleneck or your priority, see if this is really it, what's the most essential right now, and how you could go about it and make it happen. So I pasted the link to my calendar here in the chat. You can take the time now to book the call, and yeah, we can totally start working on this together. So if you're serious about your leadership, about the bottleneck that you've identified, if you're a 10 out of 10, like Horatio said, book the call. This is the natural first step to take. Good. Now we have time for Q&A. We have a couple of minutes left. Please, if you have any questions, any curiosities, anything that you want to share from the reflection exercise, feel free to do it. Write it in a chat or speak on camera or audio. I'm here.